Hello, and welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso, and here we are a little after 2:30 on this fine, Tuesday afternoon, February the 1st. Wow, that kind of screwed me up because I did a video this morning, and it was February 1st. And I don't know why I keep talking about the dates. Why do I do this? Also, when I push that button right there on my iPhone, there's a stand. So when I'm talking to you, there's a stand with this light. I think my wife bought it for like 30 bucks or 60 bucks somewhere. My iPhone, I just push the button and then start talking. I had every intention of talking about Leonard Peltier. That's the story I sat down to do. And like, as soon as I did it, I thought, oh, Foot-Fetish Phill. I'm like, well, Foot-Fetish Phill? Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about Phill because I thought of this story last night. I'll get to Peltier sooner or later. I know a lot of the people are waiting for that one. Please hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you like the video, please. Thank you guys for your support financially, just watching, whatever the deal is. My wife just told me a couple hours ago something about a Premier account for certain subscribers. We can do certain things. I don't know. I can't stress to you guys enough how little about technology that I still know. And I'll get there. We'll figure it out. Also, I made a promise to her, and we'll see if I can make it that I'm going to start doing all my material during the daytime and not do it at nighttime and go to bed with her at a reasonable time. We'll see how that works out. I'll try. Really, I mean, and she's right. So anyway, a little personals. You guys don't want to hear that shit. So, okay, here we go. 1999, USP Leavenworth. I'm about a year into serving a mandatory life sentence for a nonviolent drug crime. I'm in B lower, and in walks a guy that looks like he's 18 to 20 years old, but in reality was 39 or 40. The guy's name is Phill. Ooh, do I want to? All right. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Phill Johnston. And Phill Johnston was from Iowa / New Mexico. Prior to the sentence he was serving when I met him, he had 2 prior convictions. And now these 2 prior convictions came out of 1 arrest. So 1 act led to 2 convictions, and that is 1 in the state and 1 in the feds. Some people might think, well, that's double jeopardy. Actually, no, it's not. If you get busted, if I got busted right now, let me back up. In my case alone, when I originally got arrested, it was possession with intent to distribute at a state level. It wasn't until they started investigating that they came up with a conspiracy in the feds. Had the state of Arkansas chose, they could have still prosecuted me for the possession with intent, and the feds could have hit me with the conspiracy all out of 1 act, okay? And again, that's called dual sovereignty. Anyway, Phill Johnston had a prior drug conviction that was 1 act, that's 1 arrest, he was both charged in the state and in the feds. The state time, I believe, was run concurrent with the feds. And then he did his time in the feds, got out, and got busted again. Now, when he gets busted again, court records will show that he said to the arresting officers, how can we make this go away? According to Phill, he was talking about money. According to others, he was not talking about money. He was talking about a cooperation deal. Nevertheless, Phill pled guilty to a new conspiracy under the impression that he was going to get 30 years. Now, if you have 2 prior drug convictions in the feds, back in 1997, 98, 99, when this happened, your third case was, your third strike was mandatory life without the possibility of release if the government filed an 851 enhancement notice. Well, in Phil's case, they did. Now, his attorney or whatever, advised him poorly and said that if he pled guilty, that he would get acceptance of responsibility and he would get 30 years. So he was trying to get 30. Also, there was an argument of whether that one act that led to 2 convictions in the early 90s would then constitute 2 prior drug convictions. Well, it did. So Phill goes up to get sentenced in 1998, 1990 in the state of Iowa. The case was cocaine and heroin, and he was driving back large quantities in a car, and the judge gave him life without the possibility of release. The lawyers argued that they couldn't do that because that the prior was one act. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals said no, that one act had 2 convictions, therefore he had 2 prior convictions, and now he was subject to life without the possibility of release. At the time that Phill arrived in Leavenworth, nobody knew the real deal behind his sentence. What they knew was there was a guy who, like I said, looked like he was, I swear, 18 years old, preserved really well, skinny, looked like a young boy almost, but he was close to 40 years old. People knew that he liked to get high, he liked to do heroin, and he had a lot of money to throw around. Phill and I became friends. For, let's say, a 6-month period, I was able to afford my drug habit. Phill was able to afford his, and we were get high buddies, running buddies, whatever you want to call us. I hung around different people as well, as did he, but usually, after count 4:30, we always ended up someplace getting high together. Eventually, Phill and I got a cell together. And, it was a nonstop party. He got in good with a guy that was a Crip, and this guy was bringing a lot of drugs in, and he was getting hellified deals. And, so we stayed pretty smacked out. There came a time when there was a guy from Oregon who was getting methamphetamine shipped into the joint. And the way he was doing it, or his people were doing it, I said he was from Oregon. He was from Oregon/Missouri. His wife was in Missouri, who was sending him the stuff. They would saturate it in an envelope or on a card. And they were usually sending about an 8-ball at a time. So you just get a card that was saturated with methamphetamine. They'd break it down, put it in water, acetone or whatever, spray it on the card or dip it, however they did it. And then he'd get the card in and he'd cut little squares out. And the stuff, I did a bunch and it was fire. Well, one day Phill comes back to the cell when we were cellies and he says, hey, I got all this speed. Doing meth is cool when you're in the cell by yourself because what you do in prison, okay, you just jack off all night. That's what it is. I mean, you guys that have been in the joint that have done meth, that's what it really comes down to. I mean, what else are you doing meth for? And I'll tell you, it's great when you're on it and it's like, wow, but it's when you come down off methamphetamine inside prison, it's the fucking worst feeling ever. You feel so locked up. I never felt so bad like I had a life sentence until after then I did meth when I was coming down. It was horrible. And that's maybe why I became an opiate guy in prison, because opiates, anywhere you are was a place to be. It didn't matter, life, death, whatever. When you're on opiates, it was all good. Anyway, so Phill comes back with this meth one night, and we shot it. We were intravenous drug users, and what that means in federal prison, yes, there are real syringes, but typically we did not have real syringes. The way it usually worked is somebody would actually get a bunch of points in. That is, their old lady on the street would cut tips off, regular real syringes, put them in balloons, come to visitation and send them. And then they would sell the needle, the points, for like $15 a point. You take that point, then you get a big pin. You cut the big pin in half, a clear big pin, the cheap kind. And then you would get some fire going and melt the needle onto the end. For the binky or the plunger, we had industrial melt bags. And on the end of the industrial melt bags is like a teat, whatever you call it. And it's a piece of rubber. You cut it, put it on the end of the big pin, put a rubber band around it. Voila, you have a syringe. And it's really a syringe for dummies. Anybody can shoot dope that way. Just get the syringe, whoosh, suck it up with water, you push out, suck it up with water, and you're ready to roll. I to this day, I've never used drugs intravenously on the street, but I sure did in prison. We shot this speed up. We did so after lockdown. And the next day, we ended up being locked down. A fight occurred. And we got locked down for 3 days. So there's me and Phill in a cell. We've got heroin and meth. And we shot speed when we do the back and forth. So when you were doing speed and you do heroin, I was able to do them together, kind of like a speedball, cocaine and heroin, and feel it. A lot of people that say that the speed eats it up, whatever. But we were mainly doing the meth, and then we'd do a little bit of the tar, and then go back to the meth again, whatever. But what we did really is sit on the floor and play chess for freaking 2 days. I don't think we got off the floor for 2 days, just sitting there playing chess back and forth in silence. Oh, let's just geeked out of our brains. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? Well, on the second day, mail call came. Cop comes to the door, knock, knock, knock. Johnston, you got mail. Phill grabs a letter, looks down, and it says it's from his friend. Now, this friend sent Phill a lot of money. And come to find out that this was Phil's drug connection, his main supplier. Also a guy who he saved. And I'll get to this in a minute. Phill opened the letter, started reading it, and he started, I'll never forget, started giggling. And it wasn't, it was the giggle of a broad. It's, okay, now I've been up a day, 2 days, but all of a sudden, I look at him and I see him in a different light. Like this dude is he may be gay. How should I put it? Okay, so he giggled. Well, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh man, this guy's a fag. Stop. Anybody out here who's watching that's gay, nothing. I have nothing against homosexuals. So please don't send me hate mails, and YouTube don't ban me. I'm just saying what I was thinking back then, before I became woke. Please. So anyway, so I was just looking at him, and then he giggled and he goes, I forgot. I wouldn't say the guy's name right now anyway, but that's Charlie. Oh, Charlie's got a girlfriend. And now he's talking like he's like he's flaming. Like this happened like in a matter of seconds from the giggle to, Charlie's got a girlfriend. And he says here, he doesn't fuck her. He just has her suck his dick. And I, what? Like, I'm thinking to myself, why doesn't he fuck her? Like what's the big deal? So, okay, that struck me as weird. So the giggle, the voice, the friend who only gets his dick sucked. So like this thing was going on. Well, Phill sits back down on the floor like we were, and we commenced to playing chess. And the next thing you know, I feel my foot being rubbed. He grabbed a hold of my foot and said, oh, doesn't this feel good? And it did, man. I ain't gonna fucking lie. I swear to God, I'm not a foot rub person or a foot. It felt good, but it didn't feel good being high on meth in a cell with another dude. You know what I mean? That wasn't cool. That didn't feel good. So, I immediately pulled back no matter how good it did feel. And I'm like, no, it's good, it's cool. He's like, oh, no, come on. And he tried to like grab my foot. And So I pretty much knew right then that Phill was going both ways. He was also married and had children. Now, in case I may have thought I was tweaking, tripping, whatever, an orderly comes around and has a kite, which is a note for Phill. And the kite was from a neighbor 2 doors down who called itself Alina. Al, aka Alina, was the shot caller for the girls. Yeah, so long hair, just dumpy-ish. I don't know what to say. Anyway, Alina sent Phill a letter, and I remember Phill reading it and giggling again. And it's that giggle shit. And I'm like, oh my God, fuck, shit. And he's like, Alina wants to be my girlfriend or something. I'm like, so, and he was like happy and flattered. And I'm like, oh man, oh fuck, I just want these doors to open, right? So, okay, the doors did open the next day. It ended. Shortly thereafter, I went to the hole for a dirty urine. It was like literally within a week. And, okay, that chapter ends. Phill, I get back onto the compound. We're in different cells. We're getting high together still. As soon as I got out, Phill had a bunch of grams. And what was peculiar about this is there was a guy who was a Crip. And this Crip, some of the dirty white boys, prior to me being involved, used to sell this guy white homosexuals. So this is how the pimping game went down in Leavenworth when I was there, what I witnessed. So if you guys were there prior to me being there or after, or if you've seen something different, this is what I know, okay? When a white came in that was a homosexual, especially one that was, that was looking for dates and stuff, the dirty white boys at the time would scoop them up and say, check it out. You're not going to sit here and do this on this compound. However, you can live here, but, you're going to, live with so-and-so or be so-and-so's bitch for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Okay, again, that's what I know to be true. I do know that there was one guy that slipped through. I remember he was in B lower, I think, and nobody ever approached him. He never got sold or whatever. But that was the pimping game for the DWBs when I was there. Just so you guys know, a lot of times homosexuals in prison cause a lot of problems. So guys like to either get rid of them or whatever. Having said that, I met some really, really tough punks. You call them punks, homos, gay people, whatever. That were like, no, hell no, we ain't going nowhere, or would buck. So that exists too. But I had to say that the reason I say all this is because the DWBs did sell punks to this guy that was a Crip that Phill was getting this dope from. Should have been a flag, should have known there. Didn't really think about it. Also, there was times when he came back and he had this look on his face like he'd been demoralized, demeaned, abused, and but he had dope and he looked really high. Little did I know at the time he was going up there and dude was selling him drugs, but he wouldn't sell him drugs unless he got to fuck him first. Didn't know this at the time. This all came out later. Okay, that's the truth. So let me get into this. So Phil's out. I told you guys in the video yesterday about the Emmy, about Negro. This is the guy who he stole the dope from. I'm back out. That's when we had to deal with that whole situation with Negro stealing the drugs from him. And it wasn't, a month or two later, I'm back in the hole. and Phil's back in the hole. Well, I get word down one night. I'm in the shoe. Somebody says, hey, Rob, hey, I'm going to send something down. They shoot something down, and there's a case. Paper printed, a court case that just came out, said United States versus Philip Johnston. 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. You guys can look it up yourself. In it, it talks about why Phill got mandatory life. And what really happened was he told the government he would cooperate. He did cooperate. He did tell on people. But he told on everybody below him. So what he did was he went in there and says, yes, I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever it takes. But in a cooperation deal, you have to tell them everything or your agreement's no good. They knew who his main source was. That was the guy he got the letter from who only got his dick sucked, whatever. More on that. They knew that he was protecting somebody, so the government fucked him out of his deal. Phill gave up 6 guys total, and because he didn't give up the guy that they wanted, the deal was no good. So he's in prison doing life without parole, and he's a snitch. He got nothing out of it, but 6 people are in prison because of him. Now, he's in the shoe, and he's in the shoe with the dude called Boogie. Boogie was from Kentucky, had a really serious escape once upon a time with some marshals, gunpoint, got away, all that. He was in ADX for a long time. And from ADX, he came, that's the prison in Florence, Colorado, where all the famous people are, the worst of the worst, they say. Boogie came from ADX to Leavenworth. And Boogie liked butt. Boogie liked boys, okay? I didn't really know it at the time. I wasn't hip to it. How I found out was I got a kite from Phill that said, can I please move into your cell? Because I'm really uncomfortable over here with Boogie. Okay, so I just get this case about him. Tap on the wall. Pop, 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 pop. Hey, bro. Talk to one of my brothers. Dude, check this out. Phil's coming over here. Da-da-da-da. I'm going to fucking get him over here. This is a guy I was really cool with, too. I don't have a patch yet, but I'm, for all intents and purposes, I am a DWB at this time. And everybody knew that Phill had money. So people are like, well, hold on. Get him over here. So money, at the end of the day, it's about money, right? Get him in my cell. So Phill came to my cell. Comes in. He had some dope, brought some dope with him. He had some heroin. He had some little cheap pills. I forgot. Some kind of antihistamines. I forgot. Something you can get high on. We did the dope, and I said, Phill, whipped out the case. And he says, hold on, Rob, hold on. Me and you are better than this. We're friends. And I said, okay. He said, everybody that I snitched on and told on, they told me to. Like it was an agreement that we all had. That was his story. Okay. Well, whatever the story is, at that point, you're in a USP, you're doing a life sentence, and everybody knows you're a snitch. It doesn't really matter at that point. What matters is what's on that paper. So my mind, scheming, says to him, Phill, the guy that you got that letter from, that's your connect, right? That's the guy you're saving. Yes. Where'd you meet, dude? And he goes to tell me that they were in federal prison together. And I didn't ask him, but it was blatantly obvious that this was his lover. 100%, you can tell. And he got letters from him regularly. And now that my eyes were more open to this, you can tell. Well, so here's what goes down. I tell Phill, look, you can't stay here. You're putting me in a position, but this is what I will do for you. And all the comment section, you guys, you can write you're a scumbag here, you betray, whatever you want to do, cool, whatever. I got it. This is what went down. I said, I will contact so-and-so, who was the best jailhouse lawyer, and I will have him work on your appeal. actually it's a 2255 is a habeas. Don't tell nobody, but you're gonna need to send the money to me, because he's not gonna want anybody to know that he's working on your case. Okay, so we made an agreement. Phill knocks on the door. CO, I got to get out of this cell. Please put me in protective custody. And he goes. About 2 weeks later, I get a note. I get a letter in the mail, and it's from Phil's man, connection, whatever he is. Hey, can you help my brother? If you're going to help my brother, tell me where to send money and how much. So I said, yeah, bro, now Phil's in the doghouse. I'm not going to see him anymore. Yeah, bro, I'm going to help your bro. I'm going to help your brother. Send $5,000 to my books. I'll take care of it. $5,000 shows up in my account. I'm in the cell at this time with Dusty. And the first day we got the money, I got the money, whatever. We were drinking, and it was just like, holy fuck, can you believe this? This is like the cash cow of all cash cows. A couple weeks later goes by, wrote him, hey bro, dude's gonna need more money. 5,000 more. Boom, hits my books in a week. Yeah, got 10 grand now for telling a guy who was a known informant, known rat, known suspect, whatever, that I was going to help him out on legal work. Now, we can back up. I know there's guys on here, especially a lot of convicts, that would have just smashed dude right off the rip. And I get it. But look what I got. I just had to put it out there. Say whatever. And there's more to the story. Well, another 3,000 came before the guy sent me a letter and said, you're a piece of shit. Phil's in the doghouse with the dude. The dude's, I'm just going to say his name was Russell. Russell is in the doghouse with Phill, and you never had an agreement with Russell to work on Phil's case. And I wrote back, I got you, motherfucker, you piece of shit. And then I got a letter from Phill that has sent through his daughter. By the way, his daughter was an adult, like 18, 19, and she caught a case for him. He was having his daughter smuggle in razor blades to the county jail when he was being sentenced, and she ended up getting a case over it too. So anyway, he sent me some letters through his daughter, some hate mail for a minute, and that was all I ever heard. Was a short time later, got a message from Pollock, Louisiana, from my bro Wilbur, who I did a video about. It said Phill was down there. And he's turned all the way out, so he was all the way on girl time. And before that, he approached Wilbur and said something, and Wilbur slapped him around because he said something about Rob burned me or something, and Wilbur had him slapped around or whatever the deal was. And then the GDs got him, and from what I understand, the GDs protected him and pimped him out. Phill Johnson, I just checked recently, is still in federal prison. I know people will look at the story different ways. Probably like I did that one story about keeping point, which a little misconstrued on some parts. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. It is what it is, okay? But that's what happened. I did like Phill. There was some good things about it, and like I said, what caught me off guard is like that day when we were on meth. I didn't see it. I didn't see the softer side of him until that. You know what I mean? And the truth be told, I mean, a lot of guys would say, you're supposed to just smash him on sight, blah blah blah. But if you were getting that kind of money, if you were able to do that, you wouldn't have gave a fuck either. And let me put this out there too. He's made it through a lot of prisons since then. Everybody knows. And guys like that are protected at some spots. All they got to do is get tipped up with someone, not tipped up and join a gang, go and say, hey, fuck, whatever, I'll suck dick for you, whatever the deal, whatever. Or he actually had a lot of access to big money. His connect had big money. I think he was a wealthy business guy who just was involved in the coke trade too. And him and Phill met up at wherever they were and fell in love or whatever the deal was. And that was that. I feel bad about writing the daughter letters that I did because, you know, she had nothing to do with it. And he wrote through me, you know, and I wrote bad shit back. That's just how it is. You know, I'm trying to summarize and say, like, you know, how I felt about it. It was just one of those deals, and no matter what people think, that's what happened. That's another one of my stories. I ended up giving Dusty, my bro, I gave him like $1,000. I forgot what it was. Just because he was in the cell with me, it was entertaining. And I was not patched up yet, so I didn't owe like the DWBs a percentage. This was like my thing alone. And a lot of people knew about it. Of course, they were jealous. Of course, they wanted a piece of it, find out how to get it too. But that was like, you know, worked out. It feels a little weird telling this story now. I don't know. There it is. Foot-Fetish Phill.